How dare you show up here? Get out! Look at that dress, huh?
I stood there, 8 months pregnant, watching my ex-husband marry another woman. When he grabbed my dress and ripped it in front of everyone, laughing at my humiliation, he thought he'd won. But he didn't see my brother standing in the shadows. What happened next changed everything forever. Before we dive into this revenge story, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about a torn dress or a ruined wedding. This is about justice, survival, and how sometimes the people who hurt you the most end up destroying themselves. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear will shock you. My name is Paisley, and this is the story of how I went from being a broken, humiliated woman to watching my abuser lose absolutely everything. I thought I had it all. For 6 years, I was married to Derek Stone, a man who owned half the commercial real estate in our city. We lived in a mansion with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. We drove cars that cost more than most people's houses. Everyone looked at us and saw perfection. They saw the designer clothes, the charity galas, the social media posts of our supposedly amazing life. But nobody saw what happened behind closed doors. Nobody saw how Derek controlled every aspect of my life, what I wore, who I talked to, where I went. He wasn't physically violent, not at first. His cruelty was quieter, more calculated. He'd make comments about my weight, my intelligence, my worth. He'd isolate me from friends, telling me they were jealous of our success. Slowly, methodically, he built a cage around me that looked like a palace from the outside. The one thing I wanted more than anything was a baby. We tried for years. I went through fertility treatments that left me exhausted and emotional. We spent thousands of dollars, endured countless disappointments. And then, finally, after 6 years of trying, I saw those 2 beautiful lines on a pregnancy test. I thought it would change everything. I thought Derek would finally soften, that we'd become a real family. Instead, he became colder. He stopped touching me altogether. He said my pregnant body disgusted him, that I'd let myself go. At 7 months pregnant, working from home because I was too exhausted to go to the office, I caught him texting someone late at night. The messages were intimate, sexual. My hands shook as I scrolled through them, but it got worse. So much worse. When I was 6 months pregnant, I found his laptop open in his office. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something told me I needed to see. The emails I found shattered my entire world. He wasn't just having an affair. The woman he was sleeping with was Amber, my own cousin, the girl I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, trusted completely. They'd been together for over a year. The messages between them made me physically sick. They mocked me, called me pathetic and desperate. They laughed about how stupid I was, how I had no idea what was happening right under my nose. But the worst part, the part that still makes my blood run cold, was their plan. Amber had written, "Once that baby comes, we'll be free of her." Derek's response, "We'll get full custody. I've already talked to my lawyers. She'll have nothing." They were planning to take my baby, my child, the one I'd fought so hard to have. Derek wanted the baby, but not me. He'd been quietly building a case against me for months, documenting supposed incidents of erratic behavior, telling friends and family that my pregnancy hormones had made me unstable. He was creating a narrative where I was unfit to be a mother. I printed everything, every email, every text message, every document. Then I confronted him. Derek didn't even flinch. He just looked at me with those cold eyes and smiled. "You think anyone will believe you over me?" he said calmly. "I'm Derek Stone. I own this city. You're just a pregnant, emotional woman who everyone already thinks is losing her mind." That's when I realized how trapped I really was. He had the money, the power, the connections. His lawyers were the best in the state. I could barely afford a consultation with a decent attorney. The divorce was brutal and quick. Derek offered me a choice: take a small settlement and walk away quietly, or fight him in court and lose everything, including my baby. My lawyer, a kind woman who was doing her best with limited resources, advised me to take the deal. "He has too much power," she told me gently. "If you fight, he'll make your life hell, and you might lose custody. Take what you can and protect your child. So I did. I signed away my rights to the mansion, the money, everything we'd built together. I moved into a tiny apartment and worked 2 jobs while 8 months pregnant just to pay rent. I'd lost everything except the one thing that mattered, my baby. Then, 2 months later, the invitation arrived. It was ornate, expensive, the kind of wedding invitation that cost $50 apiece. Derek Stone and Amber Pierce were getting married at the most exclusive venue in the city. The date was set for exactly 1 week before my due date, but it was the handwritten note inside that made my hands shake. We'd love for you to see what a real family looks like. Don't worry, there will be plenty of cameras. A. My brother Nathan came over that night and found me sitting on my apartment floor, crying. He picked up the invitation, read it, and his jaw clenched. "This is a trap," he said. "They want you there so they can humiliate you publicly. Don't go, Paisley. Don't give them the satisfaction." But something inside me had shifted. For months, I'd been quiet, compliant, broken. I'd let Derek destroy me piece by piece. But holding that invitation, reading Amber's taunting words, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger, pure, burning anger. "I'm going," I told Nathan. He tried to argue, but I wouldn't budge. What I didn't tell him was that I had my own plan forming. I was going to document everything. I was going to record every cruel word, every humiliating moment. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I needed evidence of who Derek really was. The day of the wedding arrived. I chose a simple, cream-colored maternity dress, nothing fancy. I wanted to blend in, to be invisible. But the moment I walked into that venue, I knew invisibility was impossible. The place was packed. Derek had invited everyone we'd ever known. Former friends, business associates, society people who'd always looked down on me. The whispers started immediately. I could feel eyes on me, hear the barely concealed comments. "Can you believe she actually came? How pathetic. She can't let go." Amber's bridesmaids, women I'd once considered friends, actually blocked my path at one point. One of them, wearing a lavender dress and too much perfume, looked me up and down and said, "Surprised you can still fit through the door?" I said nothing. Just kept walking, head high, phone recording in my purse. The ceremony was torture. I sat in the very back, trying to disappear into the chair. I watched Derek stand at that altar in his expensive tuxedo, looking handsome and successful and completely untroubled. I watched Amber walk down the aisle in my dream wedding dress, the one I'd shown her from a magazine years ago, telling her it was perfect. She'd remembered. She'd chosen it deliberately. During the vows, when Derek promised to love and honor Amber, my baby kicked hard, as if protesting. Amber looked directly at me during her vows and smirked. She wanted me to see this. They both did. The reception was even worse. The ballroom was magnificent, with ice sculptures and champagne fountains and a live band. I found a corner table and sat alone, drinking water, watching. Derek's business partners congratulated him, slapped him on the back. I heard one say, "Smart man, definitely upgraded." Amber's mother hugged her daughter and said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, "You finally got everything you deserved, sweetheart." I wanted to leave. Every cell in my body screamed at me to get out. But I stayed. Something told me I needed to see this through. Then Derek took the microphone to give his speech. He started with jokes, thanking everyone for coming, talking about new beginnings. Then his tone shifted. He looked directly at me. "You know," he said, his voice carrying through the room, "some people just can't let go of the past. Some people crash weddings they weren't meant to attend." The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. I felt my face burning. Amber joined him at the microphone, fake tears glistening in her eyes. "She's been harassing us for months," she said, her voice trembling convincingly. "We tried to be kind, but she won't leave us alone." I started to stand, to defend myself, but security guards were already moving toward my table. Derek had planned this. He'd invited me specifically so he could rewrite the narrative in front of everyone. I wasn't the abandoned pregnant wife. I was the crazy stalker ex who couldn't accept that he'd moved on. Derek walked over to my table, his face flushed from alcohol and triumph. He grabbed my arm roughly. "Time to leave, Paisley," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. I pulled my arm away. "I was invited," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have the invitation." He laughed, a cruel sound that made my skin crawl. "Who's going to believe you?" Then, before I could process what was happening, he grabbed the neckline of my dress. With one violent yank, he ripped it. The fabric tore with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. Buttons scattered across the marble floor. I stood there exposed, trying desperately to cover my pregnant belly with my arms. The room erupted. Some people gasped. Others laughed. I saw phones come out everywhere, capturing my humiliation from every angle. Amber was filming on her phone, laughing so hard she was crying. "This is perfect!" she shouted. Derek turned to his friends, spreading his hands in mock confusion. "See? I told you she was crazy. She came here just to cause drama." I felt tears streaming down my face. This was it. This was the moment they'd wanted. They'd orchestrated my complete public destruction. They'd create viral content showing me as unstable, use it later in court to take my baby. I'd walked right into their trap. But then the music stopped. A voice boomed through the speakers, so loud and commanding that everyone froze. "Everyone stay exactly where you are." I looked up through my tears and saw my brother Nathan emerging from the crowd, but he wasn't alone. He was wearing what looked like a wire attached to his shirt. Behind him were 3 people, a uniformed police officer, a woman in a severe business suit carrying a briefcase, and a man with a professional video camera. Nathan's face was calm, but his eyes were ice cold as he looked at Derek. When he spoke, his voice carried through the entire ballroom. "My name is Nathan Pierce. I'm a criminal prosecutor for the state. I've been investigating Derek Stone for the past 3 months." Derek's smug expression vanished. His face went pale. "What I just witnessed," Nathan continued, "was assault and battery on a pregnant woman. That alone is a felony. But that's just the beginning." He pulled out a tablet and walked to the venue's AV booth. Within seconds, he'd connected it to the massive projector screen that had been showing the couple's romantic photos. The screen flickered, then filled with documents. "For the past 3 months," Nathan said, pacing slowly in front of the screen, "I've been working with the IRS and the FBI to investigate Derek Stone's business practices." Financial documents appeared on the screen. Bank statements, offshore account records, emails. The woman in the business suit stepped forward. "I'm Agent Morrison with the Internal Revenue Service. Mr. Stone has been committing tax fraud for the past 6 years, hiding over $8 million in offshore accounts." The room was completely silent now except for the click of Nathan's tablet as he changed slides. More documents appeared, emails between Derek and various business partners discussing fraudulent real estate deals, forged inspection reports, schemes to defraud investors. But then Nathan revealed something that made my blood run cold. "And Amber Pierce," he said, looking directly at my cousin, "has been an active participant in money laundering, helping Derek hide assets through fake art purchases and shell companies." Amber's face crumbled. "I didn't know," she stammered. "I didn't... Really?" Nathan cut her off. He tapped his tablet again, and an audio recording began to play. Amber's voice, crystal clear, filled the ballroom. "Once we have the baby, we can just pay Paisley off. Give her $50,000 to disappear." Derek's voice responded, "Or we prove she's unfit and she gets nothing. I already have a doctor ready to sign whatever documents we need." The recording continued, revealing their entire plan. How they'd intended to use my postpartum vulnerability against me. How they'd already bribed a psychiatrist to diagnose me with severe postpartum depression. How they planned to take my baby permanently and erase me from their lives. I watched the color drain from faces all around the room. These people, who moments ago had been laughing at my humiliation, now understood what they'd really been witnessing. The police officer stepped forward, handcuffs ready. "Derek Stone, you're under arrest for assault, fraud, conspiracy, and about 15 other charges we'll discuss downtown." Derek tried to run. He actually tried to run in his wedding tuxedo. He made it maybe 3 steps before 2 more officers appeared from the exits and tackled him to the ground. The sound of him hitting the marble floor was satisfying in a way I can't fully describe. Amber was screaming now, her carefully applied makeup running down her face. "This is my wedding day," she shrieked. "You can't do this." But Nathan had more. He always had more. He played another recording, this one of Amber talking to a friend just days before the wedding. Her voice was bright, excited, proud. "Derek is so smart. We're going to be millionaires. And the best part? We're getting rid of Paisley forever. She'll be so destroyed she'll probably just disappear on her own." The second officer handcuffed Amber as she sobbed. The wedding guests were in complete chaos now. Some were trying to leave. Others were recording everything on their phones. Derek's business partners looked panicked, several of them trying to quietly slip out the exits, only to find more officers waiting. Nathan walked over to me and gently draped his jacket over my torn dress. "It's over," he whispered. "I've got you." As Derek and Amber were let out in handcuffs, Derek tried one last time to play the victim. "She orchestrated this," he shouted, thrashing against the officers. "My crazy ex-wife set me up." Nathan just smiled. "Actually, I did. And every single thing we're charging you with is backed by months of evidence that has nothing to do with my sister. You destroyed yourself, Derek. Paisley just survived you." The next few weeks were a blur. By the time Nathan and I left the venue that night, news vans were already outside. The story went viral within hours. Millionaire arrested at own wedding after assaulting pregnant ex-wife. The video of Derek ripping my dress was everywhere, but now it had context. Now people understood what they were really seeing. Derek tried to get bail. The judge denied it. He was considered a flight risk with assets hidden all over the world. His expensive lawyers tried every trick they knew, but several of them ended up implicated in the fraud too, and had to withdraw. Derek ended up with public defenders who were overworked and underpaid. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I had to testify, 9 months pregnant by then, exhausted and uncomfortable. But Nathan had prepared me well. I told my story calmly, showed the evidence, answered every question with quiet dignity. The jury took 2 hours to convict him on every single charge. Derek got 15 years in federal prison for the fraud and financial crimes. The judge added 3 more years for the assault, specifically noting his callous disregard for the safety of a pregnant woman. Amber got 8 years as an accomplice. But Nathan wasn't done. He helped me file civil lawsuits for emotional distress, assault, conspiracy, and defamation. We won $4.7 million in damages. Derek's entire empire was liquidated to pay. The mansion I'd lived in for 6 years was sold, and I got the proceeds. Every luxury car, every piece of art, every asset he'd hidden. All of it went to paying what he owed me. His business partners sued him too. By the time everything was settled, Derek Stone had nothing left. I gave birth 3 days after the trial ended. A healthy baby boy, 8 pounds, with my eyes and my father's nose. I named him William, after my dad who'd passed away years before. Nathan was in the delivery room with me, crying harder than I was when William took his first breath. The hospital tried to notify Derek, as was legally required. I refused any contact, and in a final twist, Derek had signed away his parental rights as part of his plea deal, hoping it would reduce his sentence. It didn't, but it did mean he'd never have any claim to my son. I used the settlement money to start my own interior design business. Within a year, I'd built something I was proud of. Former clients of Derek's came to me, wanting to support me, wanting to work with someone they could trust. I bought a beautiful house in a safe neighborhood with a yard where William could play. I hired help so I could work and still be present for my son. Through mutual acquaintances and Nathan's connections, I heard about Derek's life in prison. Other inmates knew what he'd done. Assault on a pregnant woman doesn't earn you respect behind bars. He wrote me letters begging for forgiveness. I burned every single one without reading them. He tried to get visitation rights with William. The court denied him without hesitation. Amber got out after 5 years for good behavior. She moved to another state, works at a coffee shop for minimum wage, and lives in a studio apartment. Her social media accounts, once full of luxury and bragging, are gone. She tried to reach out once through a mutual friend. I blocked the friend. Today, William is 4 years old. He's brilliant and kind and full of energy. My business is worth over $2 million and expanding to 3 cities. I'm dating a wonderful man named Paul, a high school teacher who makes me laugh and treats me with genuine respect. He loves William like his own son. Nathan is still my hero, still William's godfather and favorite person in the world. I used some of the settlement money to buy my parents a house, to pay off their debts, to give them the security they'd always dreamed of. And I started a foundation that helps women leave abusive relationships, providing legal fees and emergency housing. That night at Derek's wedding changed my life, not because of the humiliation or the torn dress or the public spectacle. It changed my life because it was the moment I stopped being a victim and started fighting back. It was the moment my brother showed me what real love and protection looked like. It was the moment Derek's carefully constructed empire began to crumble under the weight of his own cruelty. Sometimes I think about that moment when he ripped my dress, when he thought he'd won, when he was sure he'd destroyed me completely. He had no idea that every phone recording my humiliation was also recording his assault. He had no idea my brother had spent 3 months building an airtight case against him. He had no idea that his own arrogance and cruelty would be his downfall. Derek thought power came from money and control and humiliation, but real power comes from surviving, from standing back up when someone tries to destroy you, from building a new life from the ashes of the old one. He's in prison, broke, and alone. His name is synonymous with fraud and abuse. His business empire is gone. His reputation is destroyed forever. And me? I'm free. I'm successful. I'm surrounded by people who genuinely love me. I'm raising a son who will grow up knowing his mother never let anyone break her spirit. That's real power. That's real victory. If this story resonated with you, I hope you'll share it. Not for me, but for anyone out there who's trapped in a relationship with someone like Derek. Anyone who thinks they're powerless because someone has more money or more influence or more control. You're not powerless. Document everything. Find people you can trust. And know that sometimes justice takes time, but it comes. Thank you for listening to my story. Remember, you're stronger than anyone who tries to break you. And sometimes the best revenge isn't something you plan. It's just living well while they lose everything they thought made them powerful.